Hey, you're listening to Cracking the Code, the podcast for leaders building and growing service-based businesses. If you are in legal or medical or financial services, if you have letters behind your name that qualify you to do what you do for a living, you are in the right place. I am your host, Rob Riggs, here to bring you intel and access that are designed to decode how technology can be and should be impacting your growth. All right, let's get into it. All right, we're live. Joining me today is John Munsell, who is CEO of Bazooka and one of a really sharp mind in AI strategy. So John's been in digital marketing for a number of decades. We won't say how many, but trust me when I say he's built his reputation through all of the iterations of how digital marketing presents itself. So John, thanks so much for being on today.
Hey, Rob.
Why don't you take a second and tell us about yourself?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. Hopefully, I'll be able to add a lot of value to your audience here today. So,
Sure.
1,000-mile-an-hour tour. I started off in financial services and spent 16 years there, and then the web started to come out, and I realized, oh, well, that's where the growth is, and so I ejected to start a company that built web applications back in '97. Yeah, somebody's doing the math. They're going to figure out just how hideously old I am.
Sure.
But yeah, so back then, you could build a website for $250,000 and up because there was no code, right? There was nothing.
Right.
And then we built our own CMS, content management system. And then we gradually turned around and flipped our model to where we would license it on a component-based architecture to people. So
Nice.
we became SaaS before SaaS was even an acronym.
That's awesome.
Cool. And then we gradually started to build mobile applications, and then we became a digital marketing company. And then about 4 years ago, I sold that off because we started to look at AI and like, okay, well, this is where the new gold rush is. This is where all the growth is. And at the time, I was, dangerously close to becoming an empty nester. And so my wife and I said, well, shoot, if the kids are all over the country, maybe we should be in a position to travel. So we sold that part off, and I thought, well, I'm just going to become a chief marketing officer, fractional, and, call it a day. And then I realized after landing a couple CMO gigs that I had just traded the job I didn't want anymore for the same job. So
Sure.
yeah.
Nice.
So anyway, but I spent about a year working with CEOs to understand what it was they wanted. And it turns out there really wasn't a whole lot of interest in marketing as much as there was in AI, because I was actually using AI, having gone from a high of 40 employees down to, 2.5. I had to use AI to kind of scale myself up. And they were like, what are you doing over there? And so I would start to show them stuff, and I built some frameworks and started to teach people. And then LSU picked up on what I was doing, and then they had me create something for their continuing ed program. And then this year, we're working with Tulane University. We're working with really large international companies, and it's just been crazy. It's been a lot of fun.
I'd love to dive into right there. Your AI strategy canvas is mandatory at LSU now. How did you convince academia, or how did they discover you, in a way that makes your framework obvious where it belongs in the university curriculum?
So I don't know that I would say it's mandatory at LSU, but I know that in terms of the continuing ed program, that's what we teach. So the AI strategy canvas, some of your listeners may be versed in the business model canvas, but it was kind of built around that. I mean, as I was working with people and trying to teach them prompt engineering, not from a developer's perspective, but from a front end user's perspective, right? I'm dealing with CEOs who are used to delegating, and now all of a sudden they're like, I don't know how to lead this stuff. I don't even know how to use it. And I was telling them, look, you have to provide it the right context. Otherwise, you're going to go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth before you finally get something. And by that time, you'll start to get frustrated and stop using it. But if you know what to put in there ahead of time and you can think through it, then that'll be pretty helpful. And so that's where we developed the AI strategy canvas. And as I presented it to some of these CEOs, they were like, oh, wow, now I get it. And so they started to make it mandatory inside of their organizations. And they would teach their development team how to do this. And I also developed another principle that we call scalable prompt engineering, which, you've built spreadsheets before, right?
Sure.
Yeah. Well, in a spreadsheet, the one thing that you know is that you always build like an assumptions table over here, so that you're not hard coding variables inside of a set of formulas across a row or anything like that, so that you can change it in one area rather than having to go individually change it in a million others. Mm-hmm. Well, the same holds true with prompting, right? If you're going to reuse a prompt over and over again or repurpose it, the last thing you want to do is just read through this entire monster paragraph and go, well, if I swap this word with that word, that gets messy. But if you containerize the information you're providing AI, then you have hot swappable containers. And so I could take a prompt that I created in marketing and I can hand that same prompt off to HR, and they can produce a job description for the handbook by just swapping out the persona and maybe one other variable like a tone. So anyway, that's kind of where it all started. And those two are the foundational principles that we teach primarily in fact, I even got convinced to write a book on the subject that I released in April of last year called Ingrain AI. And that book teaches a business how to use these things to scale AI in their organization.
Yeah, nice. Okay. How long did it take for that book to become obsolete? In the world of AI, it's changing every few minutes.
Right. That's a great question, because it literally hasn't become obsolete. It's become more important. And as a matter of fact, literally this morning, and I'm not joking when I tell you this, I had a 2-hour meeting with our team, talking about setting up Q1. Right. This is the third of our annual planning sessions. And I did a ton of research analyzing the book and analyzing everybody's forecasts for what was going on in 2026, what happened in 2025. And I had it analyze the book and say, okay, I need to write a new version of this book. What do I need to update? And, I gave it some other parameters, and it came back and it said, the principles that you teach in the book aren't becoming less relevant or less important. They're actually becoming more important. And I was like,
nice.
All right, that feels good, right? And it's because we're not actually showing somebody how to use, Claude Sonnet 3.5 when 4.5 is out, or ChatGPT 4.0 when 5.2 is out. The principles are the principles, no matter what LLM you're using or what version it is. The only thing that differs is your ability to know whether you're using a thinking model, or a fast model or something else. That's the only thing that really needs to kind of be updated in the book. But there are other principles we do too. For instance, we have come up with this process that we call 10 levels of AI mastery. So inside of an organization, anybody and the collective intelligence of the company follows these 10 levels of AI mastery. And when we're doing a workshop with teams, you would be surprised. I have them all stand up and I describe stage 1, of AI mastery, and then I describe stage 2, and I have them sit down if I reach a stage and describe a stage that they haven't done anything yet. And I kid you not, 95% of the people are sitting after stage 3. And then you look around and you're like, whoa, our organization, we have 7 more stages to go, and everybody is sitting at stage 3. And those are one of the things that we want to put into the book too, so people understand there's so much more to AI than just asking the question and getting an answer and thinking I'm a genius,
Yeah, sure. Nice. So who do you normally serve? Are you working with marketing departments, HR, who are your what kind of industries?
Yeah, great question. I mean, I wish I'd say that we had a focus, but we're really industry agnostic.
Okay.
We haven't made an outbound sales call since we started. It's all been inbound, which is kind of interesting.
Hmm.
And lately, we've been getting a lot of calls from higher education.
Okay.
We're starting to get some calls from, high schools and stuff, private in
Yeah.
particular. But we have clients all over the globe, and they range. I've had some of the world's largest companies call us, world's largest consulting companies call us. So we're really everywhere. I think, if I were to put my finger on any specific industry, um, I really couldn't, because it's literally all over the board.
Yeah.
So what we've tried to do, Rob, is, are you familiar with the book Traction by Gino
Oh yeah.
Wickman?
Yeah.
So
Oh
you're
yeah.
familiar with EOS, right?
EUS and all that. Sure.
Okay. So when Gino wrote the book Traction, he obviously had a whole bunch of people say, "Oh, this is great. I can implement this myself," right? And then a whole bunch of other people called him up and said, "Can you come and do this for us? Teach us how to do this. Yeah, I don't want
Yeah.
to have 100 people reading the book. I just, you come in and do a couple workshops," right? And so then he
Hmm.
he created these EOS implementers. I got a good friend of mine who became an EOS implementer.
Sure.
Well, after writing the book, we started to realize we had probably just done the same thing. So
Nice.
you could buy the book and you could learn how to implement this in your organization. But if you're a bigger organization, you're going to say, "All right, can somebody come in and help us do this?" And so we
Mhm.
started an Ingrain AI certified implementer program, and we're in the ending phase of our first cohort, which will graduate this month. So
Nice.
that's going to be cool. And they are the ones who kind of pick their own verticals. So we have one in law, we have two in nonprofits, we got one focused on higher education, some in manufacturing, some in accounting. So that's really helped us out. We don't have to be vertically focused,
Nice.
but at the same time, we've got a cohort of people who can call on each other, because some of them, for instance, don't want to touch governance with a 10-foot pole. And then you
Sure.
have other people who are like, "That's my jam. I love governance. I love
Yeah.
security." So they can literally work with each other to go and work with a pretty large or small corporation to implement all these things.
Nice. That's a perfect segue, because a lot of the people we work with in our company are professional services. They have to take a test to do what they do. They have letters after their name. There's some level of regulatory compliance that they need to meet in order to continue to do what they do.
Mhm.
And this is essentially becoming really it's becoming a challenge with AI, because you have people feeding ChatGPT their P&L statement and say,
Right.
"Hey, what do you make of this?" Or like other areas
Sure.
where you're
Yeah.
essentially feeding
Their
your
client
private company
list, right?
data. Right,
Right.
right,
Right.
sure. How do you have ways to train around that? What to do, what not to do, and like the data sensitivity, I guess, around
Yeah.
compliance.
So, all right. So if we have this thing we call the transformation roadmap, and it starts with us developing a transformation plan for a company. Now, if you're a small
Okay.
company, you're going to skip the plan and just say, "Let's just train our people." If you're a
Sure.
medium or larger size company, you're like, "Yeah, let's figure out what this plan is. What are resources that we need to put at it? How long is it going to take? Is this a 1 or 2 year process, et cetera?" The next
Mm.
phase is an executive alignment workshop, where we get the executive team together, and it's a 4 hour workshop, and we show them what's possible, what our frameworks are, how they will operate, and we show them what we're going to teach their people how to do with their own fingertips at their desktops, and we even teach the executives how to do that. The next phase after that is AI governance. Okay.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
so we help them establish in the lower ends of that 10 stages of AI mastery I was telling you about.
Yeah.
That's governed by a center of excellence. When you get to the
Mm-hmm.
upper ends, that's governed by an AI council. Somewhere in the middle is kind of a governing group that's a hybrid of the two. And so as people progress in their training, they learn different levels of security, of governance, et cetera, and compliance. So when
Sure.
somebody's just messing around with it, you typically have a lower level AI architecture too. So we have this thing we call the 3 axis model of AI maturity, which means as somebody's skill level goes up, the complexity of the AI systems they work with increases. And as that complexity increases, governance increases at the same time. Does that make sense?
Totally.
Yeah. And so what we try to do is create what I call empowered governance, which is at the lower stages, we want to encourage innovation and use and mistake making within guardrails. But at the upper end, when we get into agentic workflows and things like that, we need them to, report to somebody, and we need somebody else overseeing the API connections and the licensing and all that stuff, right? But you can't. What ends up happening is most people are just teaching people, oh, go figure it out on YouTube or go read some stuff inside of ChatGPT, and they don't really teach you the strategic use of all this. They just say, here's a cool prompt, and it's a paragraph prompt, and it doesn't really apply to you because you don't know what context you have to add to all that, right?
Right.
And that's where we come in. We just help people understand every layer up gives them better results, gives them more ability to recapture time or increase capacity is what we say, right? But we want to do that inside of a progressive set of rules and guidelines.
Sure. Hey, this is Rob Riggs, and I wanted to take just a second to tell you about Code Conspirators, our sponsor here. And we are a technology-focused performance marketing agency serving professional service firms. So that's legal, medical, financial, engineering. If you have to take a test to do what you do for a living, we help you grow your practice with websites and apps, software, and performance marketing. That's organic, paid ads, retargeting, conversion optimization. And we're also doing a whole host of things with CRM, AI, and automation that's been bringing our clients tremendous value. If you're curious at all, go to codeconspirators.com to learn more. Now back to the show. So I've seen people selling a lot of different AI tools, and most of them center around here's 100 of my favorite prompts, or parlor tricks. Look what I can make it do.
Parlor tricks is my phrase too. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. You see people as well selling these massive like agentic entire organizations that they've built out. Somebody who writes copy, somebody who reviews copy, and it's all AI, and somebody who's putting it into a WordPress site and then turning that into in blog posts and social, etc. So if somebody is, first of all, where does that fall in terms of your, level 1 to 10? Does it relate at all? And does it, at what point does somebody graduate from, I can write a blog post with AI and just, post that, versus implementing more of a strategic, governance to your point, I guess.
Yeah. Well, so the way I look at it is there are a whole lot of people who skipped steps. They skipped stages and they went straight from, oh, I can ask it a question to, wow, if I connect this to this to this, I can have it automatically shove a blog post in the middle of my website and I don't have to do anything, right?
Yeah.
Well, the problem with that is, first of all, it's a security nightmare. You've played around with tools that you probably don't have a clue what back doors you have left open.
Right.
The other thing is you've completely removed the one thing that you bring to your company, which is your expertise and your own thoughts and your own creativity. You remove that and you've taken a company that used to deliver excellence and now it's delivering mediocrity or less, right? You're delivering what everybody else can deliver because everybody else is doing the same experimentation.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, that's why you see all this crap out there when you read your LinkedIn post and these people who reply and they're using clearly AI to reply to a post because they regurgitate what you said in a smaller context down at the bottom, and you're like, but they say, curious, what's your take on X? And I'm like, if I see that formula one more time, I'm going to throw a grenade. Yeah. But so I think what we try to teach people is, look, I need you to understand how to prompt more effectively. but I need your expertise and your wisdom and all of the things that you bring to the table. I need that injected in here. So I want you to be in control. I don't want you to be in the loop. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
So we call it human at the helm rather than human in the loop, because I want them. I mean, we hired them, we trained them, we got years of experience working together, right? And so they're part of our culture. If they abdicate all of the stuff they learned over the years to an AI that doesn't know that, then we've
Yeah,
just downshifted big time. I don't care how
right.
automated it is. If you've removed that part, you've removed the heart and soul out of your company and what you deliver in terms of excellence to your clients.
Yeah. And you're just delivering it faster,
Yeah,
delivering the
yeah,
slop
yeah.
faster, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It's like, a whole lot of people are down on AI copywriting, and I can see why, because it's very, very formulaic. But if you're trying to just get AI to write 100%, then there are a couple of things that happen. First of all, AI is trained on the world's copy, and it has no idea what excellence looks like. It just knows what frequency looks like. And so it will, since it's a predictive engine, it's going to predict what it's seen the most of. And what it's seen the most of is probably garbage, right?
Mm.
So on the other end, if you are saying, I'm the one who knows this topic better than anyone, I've got opinions on these things, let me give those opinions to AI and have it do some more stuff and come back. Now I've gone from 0 to 60 in 2.5 seconds, but I need to take it from
Mm.
60 to 100, right? I mean,
Right.
that's really the way to look at it.
For sure. Nice. So I love that the scalable prompt engineer, you painted a very clear picture around how you can start with the basics, and things tend to get more complex over time as the user gets to be more proficient. Is there anything that would you talk us through your 10 steps at a super high level? Yeah, or 10
Yeah,
levels, I
the
guess.
10 stages.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the first stage, hang on a minute, let me just kind of uh, pull it up here so I don't just we gave them clever names, Rob, because we have to be clever, right?
You have to. Yeah.
You got to be clever, right? So the first one is the one we call Explorer. All right. And so the Explorer is just that first person who's using it for the first time, and they ask it a question and they get responses and they're like, wow, this is amazing. I'm a genius. AI is a genius. Together, we're going to crush it. Right.
Yeah.
And then they start working with it a little bit more, and they're like, wait a minute, this, now that I look at it, this isn't as great as I thought it was, but it sure was amazing coming out. And then become an experimenter is stage 2, right? So in stage 2, they realize that how they ask the question matters. And so they learn
Mm.
different ways to phrase the question, and they start to get better results. Well, that then moves them into stage 3, where they like, you know what, I've been doing this enough. What I really need to do is save these prompts, because I'm doing it over and over and over and over again. And if I could just save them, because typically what you do is you go, man, I just did that a couple of weeks ago. And now you got to go through this giant library of all your conversations with ChatGPT to try to figure out when you did it again. And where was it in that giant thread that I did it, right? And so
Yeah.
you're like, okay, that's futile. So let me start saving my prompts as I craft better ones, all right? And then you move into stage 4, which is what we call the curator. And the
Okay.
curator is where you're feeding it better context. You realized, okay, it's not just about the words in the prompt, but if I create a document that really describes my product or products, and each one could have its own document. And I use that when I'm having a conversation with AI. So now it's got deeper context. Then I'm doing better, right? So you're learning how to curate what we would call knowledge-based documents, and you're learning how to create your own. Some people will go, "Oh, well, I got a whole lot of PDFs that the company gave me." No, no, no. Let's
Right.
go create our own with information that we know AI actually needs, and in a framework that is useful for AI. All right, and then that brings us into stage 5, which is the architect. And the architect is where you realize, I can actually get AI to take steps with me. Okay.
Mhm.
So I can create kind of workflows um, where I might go from one step to the next. And the thing that's it's really kind of interesting is most people don't know that they could write a prompt that tells AI to wait and for your review before it goes on to the next thing. If we're
Sure.
taking a simple example like a blog post, rather than say, write me a blog post about topic X and have it just blather on, you can say,
Yeah.
look, I want you to create an outline first. Let me review the outline. Then I want you to do one step at a time of the outline, write it up. I'll review it. If I approve it, then you go on to the next step. And that's just a simple example. So you're
Sure.
you're starting to architect workflows and step-by-step prompts. And then you move into stage 6, which is the orchestrator. And at the orchestrator level, you're probably working with a team. You've probably created some of these prompts and you've created documents. And you're like, I need to share these with the team.
Yeah.
So now we're talking about building custom GPTs or Claude projects or Gemini gems where I can store all of those documents that I just created. I can create a
Mhm.
set of system instructions to run it, and then I can share it out with the rest of my team. So we don't have to constantly have these one-off dialogues, but we can have projects and folders and we can start organizing it a whole lot better. And so
Yeah.
some of that stuff, I don't have to cut and paste prompts all the time. I've already got it set up and running inside of a system. Then you get into stage 8, which is the integrator. And as you might expect, the integrator is now connecting APIs. And sometimes it's an external data source. Sometimes it's a thing like a make.com or a Cassidy or something like that, where you're
Yeah.
potentially taking the output of one LLM and throwing it into the input in another. So you're doing a lot of stuff in the integrator stage that needs more control, by the way. That's
Mhm.
where we start increasing the complexity of the systems as well as the governance. In stage 9, now you're starting to build agents that perform automatically, right? So, if you got a weekly report that has to be done, it would be neat if that thing was done Monday morning when you showed up for work rather than you having to start on it Monday morning, right?
For sure. Yeah.
And so you build those automatic agents that are actually executing all that because they're now connected to the data sources and they can
Mhm.
make all that happen. And it gets a lot more complicated than that at the agent builder stage. But the final stage is the AI leader. That's stage 10. And that's where you're leading all of these AI agents and you're leading teams that are overseeing the agents, right? Does that
Mhm.
make sense? So now you've got
Totally.
a pretty sophisticated workflow going, but the governance at that level is pretty significant because some of those are autonomous agents. It's going to be a while before I think you see some people at stage 10 because the technology is moving a lot faster than the security to cover it. And so I
Fair.
think
Yeah.
before you start seeing autonomous agents playing around with financials, transferring money,
Yeah.
I think you're going to see a whole lot of security that has to be built in before people are really comfortable with that at scale.
Yeah. Wow. It's interesting to see how AI uses and abuses are already like infiltrating
Yeah.
the digital world now. We have a couple clients who are getting spam, and the level of spam has of AI spam has grown to a point where it passes the first human check.
Yeah.
And then the client's like, wait a second, that the form message says I'm exploring my feelings. Like this is probably not like yeah, somebody interested in my manufacturing equipment.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting to see. Well, John, I know we're at at the hour, but wanted to see kind of, is there anything that you wish we would have covered that we just didn't have time to today?
Man, I can't think of anything. Honestly, I think you did a great job of hammering my noggin a little bit.
Sure.
No, I
Well,
mean, it's been a
what?
lot of
Yeah,
fun. So I
yeah,
appreciate
certainly.
it. I was just trying to figure out, the name Code Conspirators is so intriguing to me. It's like that's clever, man. That's kind of interesting. But I was trying to figure out how it ties into what you do. But
Nice. We're all about, so our podcast is cracking the code, and so we like talking to people who have really cracked the code on a particular aspect of business. And so we're helping small business get more of a footing equal to their bigger counterparts.
mhm.
And so that's it's a lot of fun. Probably similar to the business you sold a few years ago.
Yeah, probably. I can tell you though, you're probably in the right business at the right time. I was frankly glad to get out of it, but
Sure.
people have to learn new tricks. And the
Yeah.
thing that I feel like AI is going to do is democratize a lot of things that needed to be. For instance, let's just look at development, right?
Sure.
Your larger companies have an internal dev team, and your smaller companies have to outsource all that. And so, what have they
Right.
been doing? Outsourcing it to India, right?
Yeah.
Then you got the bigger corporations like Microsoft laying off 20,000 people. They're all high caliber guys, right? And
Hmm.
gals, not to be sexist, but so they're all high caliber people that I feel like where they're going to end up going, like the big craze is vibe coding. But the
Yeah.
reality is, if you want to pull that all together into an application that's securely run inside your operation, you need an engineer. Where are you going to get
Absolutely.
an engineer? Oh, there are a few that just got laid off, right?
Yeah.
And so I
Right.
think they're going to be going from the big corporations down to the small guys, and that's going to be the big democratization that nobody's really talking about. That's going to be the big
Right.
growth factor. So I think you could do really well in there. I've always been surprised at how much traffic we never got from Google that all of a sudden we're getting from ChatGPT.
It's so
It's
interesting.
really
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah, very interesting.
Um, yeah. I love that take because it's going to like upscale even the smallest of firms who are able to access at a
Yeah,
fractional level the engineer who had several years at Google or whatever.
yeah.
Um,
No, I totally think so. And what was it 2 years ago where the CEO of Microsoft said SaaS is dead? I was
yeah.
like, what the hell do you mean SaaS is dead? And then I started to realize, oh, you know what? If all of this shakes down the way I'm
Mm,
thinking, I could build my own application that fits me like a glove. I don't have to pay for all the bloatware that Salesforce.com stuffs in there or any of
right.
these other tools. I can build what I need almost just in time.
Right.
That's going to
Hmm.
be a real interesting thing when that happens. So
It
it's
is
already
huge.
started. Yeah.
I played my hand at vibe coding a good bit for the past year or so, and I'll spend a couple weeks on a project and then hand it off to the dev team as a illustration, MVP concept. Here's what I'm trying to get it to function like. They'll look at
Yeah.
the code, and it's not scalable like you would
Right.
like if you built from the ground up with a dev team, but it does an amazing job at MVP to
Correct.
like let's build this and
MVP prototyping. Yeah, yeah. I mean, you
yeah.
just literally can jam some stuff really quickly. But,
Mm,
on the web, right? I've built, oh, like I'm having a conversation with a prospect, and that prospect is worried about X, Y, or Z. And I'm like, look, let me show you how we can calculate an ROI on your investment to build this piece of software. And
mhm.
I'll ask that person for a bunch of things. What do you think we would need to, include in terms of costs and et cetera, blah, blah, blah. And I'll take that transcript of that conversation, and I've got an analyzer that will analyze that transcript and turn it into a PRD. Take that PRD, and then I'll flip it into a using Claude. I'll build essentially a calculator, an ROI calculator, and I can literally paste it into a WordPress page, and boom, I can, within 7 minutes, I can like, here's a calculator. So just play around with your own numbers and tell me what happens. It's just
Love it.
crazy. It would have taken me a
Mhm.
week and a half to get that out of my dev team before, but
I
that's a simple example, of course. But
Now
there's
you
a
have
lot.
it in
Yeah,
10 minutes for
yeah,
sure. What so where could somebody reach out as a next step if they're interested, but they want a surface level like dip a toe in the water? Where could I send
yeah.
them?
Well, thanks. So obviously they can go to ingrain.ai or they can go to bazooka.com, bizzuka.com.
Love that.
That's the mothership, if you will. Ingrain AI is the book that I wrote, ingrain.ai. It's available on Amazon. But I will be publishing a new version, an updated version, either that or the sequel. We haven't decided which, but that'll be out in April. So if your readers want to get a free copy of the digital version of that when it comes out, there will be a window where I can make that available. But they
Nice.
can get that by signing up at ingrain.ai/2026. And if they will just tell me they heard about it on your podcast, then I'll hook them up with a free version of it.
Excellent. Nice. I'll make sure the link to both, Bazooka and Ingrained AI is in the show notes, so people can just click and go there directly. This is fantastic. And as soon as that's available, I'll be on Ingrained.ai and I'll be looking for the book because I'm devouring content right now. So that's cool.
Well, if you go to /2026, don't panic because it's not ready yet.
Sure.
That
No worries.
was
We
one of
still
the things
got a
I was
few
supposed
months.
to finish over the weekend, and I haven't done it yet.
Yeah, I'm with you. I had hopes to accomplish the world in the past 2 weeks, and I got half the world done, but still got
There you
some
go.
ways to go. But John,
Awesome.
man, it's been fantastic getting to know you and explore the topic deeper. Very cool. I
Thanks,
appreciate you
Rob.
being on and sharing.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you having me on.
Okay, fascinating conversation. That was John Munsell. If you're feeling overwhelmed by AI or wondering how to train your team to use it effectively and safely, grab that book when it drops in April. The link is in the show notes. And if you are professional services, a law firm, financial advisor, medical practice, etc., looking to build the tech infrastructure to support AI adoption, we can help. I encourage you to visit codeconspirators.com, book a free revenue assessment, and see what exactly tech could be accomplishing in your organization that you're missing opportunities on currently. That's all for today. Tune in next time. I'm Rob Riggs, Code Conspirators, and have a great day.